Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to Be Determined. Today we're going to be going over an update concept that I've come up with for a new foraging update. So if you guys are excited, let's go ahead and drop a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's jump into it. Alright, so we're not going to do a face cam today just because I want to focus on the concept of this update and be able to show you guys the full screen and kind of tell you what I'm thinking. So I've been thinking about this concept for like 3 weeks or so now, so I've come up with some pretty detailed ideas. But a lot of this I did base off of the Dwarven Mines update because that was a really big deal. That was like the second level 60 skill that we got was mining whenever the Dwarven Mines update came out. And I think that if we got a new foraging update, we would definitely want a foraging 60 unlocked, and also more of a reason to grind foraging. Like when Dwarven Mines came out, the main reason to grind that out was because you wanted to max out your Heart of the Mountain just to say you'd done it. And for foraging, I kind of want a similar concept to Heart of the Mountain, but the main thing that I want is a whole new island. Now I've already had the park revamped, I want to say twice honestly, but I think it's just once. Like originally it used to be a bunch of small islands and you jump around to each one and then do that type of deal. But when the Dwarven Mines came out, it was a whole new island. It was huge, and I want something similar to that. I don't think that the new foraging island should be as big as the Dwarven Mines were, because if we go there right now, you can see it's like the second biggest island now that the Crimson Isles come out. But like this is huge, man. We won't need like a big cave system like this for the foraging island, because I mean we're chopping down trees and it's kind of hard to do that if you're underground. But this is a giant island and I don't think we really need anything this ginormous. Honestly, if we had something like from the King's area to about the statues here, I think that would be plenty big enough. But when this island comes out, it's gonna have so many players on it right off the bat, so it is gonna need to be pretty big to be able to hold all those players and have them all grinding out their trees without having to deal with too much. So honestly, a giant island like the Dwarven Mines wouldn't be a bad idea, but the main reason I wouldn't want it that way is because then we'd have to wait for ages for the map builders to get it done, and then for the coding to start after that. And I just want this island to come out as soon as it possibly can. The main reason we're going to want a big island is because I want the trees to be different. I want them to feel more custom. Like the dark oak and spruce in the park, they feel okay, but they're very vanilla. I want something more like these trees here, something very large like this, or even this tree. Something as giant as this tree would be so cool. Like it literally takes you like 2 to 3 minutes to chop down one tree. I think that would be really nice. I wouldn't want it to feel too much like mining, which I don't think it would, considering we have tree capitators and jungle axes and things like that. But imagine how long it would take you to grind all of the wood out of this one tree, and imagine we have like 100 of them on a single island. I think that could be a really cool idea. Maybe not as big as this, but pretty huge like this giant tree here. But I want to get to the main concept of the island, which is very similar to the Dwarven Mines, where the dwarves inhabit the mines and you're there with the dwarves mining. And here I want us to be with elves. I think that would be cool. Like the Elven Forest be the name of the island, and there's elves there. And there we'll talk about like the whole concept later on, because I know like in the stories elves are usually one with nature, so why would they be chopping down trees? But I'll get to that in a minute. But I think that could be really cool. So the whole concept would be revolving around elves, all the lore and all the mini games and little things that you can do around the island. And of course the tree would be like a new type of tree. When we got the Dwarven Mines, we got mithril and titanium, and I think we only need like 2 different types of trees. Just like we had mithril and titanium, we have one that's instead of mithril and one that's instead of titanium. But it won't be just like mithril and titanium where you mine mithril and sometimes titanium spawns. There will be trees, and they'll be just like the normal trees that we have, where if you break them they don't like turn into bedrock. But I do want 2 different types of trees, and I want it to be similar to kind of sea creature grinding, where you have to be a certain level before you can chop the higher level of tree. Like you can't catch sea emperors until you're fishing fishing 25. Maybe you can't chop the higher level tree until you're foraging 35. That also brings us to when you would unlock the island. You would unlock the island at probably around level 20, maybe level 24, like the Crimson Isle is unlocked there, because I know that the park is pain, but I think people need to experience that pain. I don't know. I mean, you can unlock the Dwarven Mines at like mining 12, so that might not be a bad idea. But I want the difference between the park and the Elven forest to be very big. I want people to be able to tell that the second they walk in. And if you've only been on the park for like 15 minutes and then you go and jump into the Elven forest, you're not really gonna get it. But let me know what you guys think about that. I will be reading all the comments. But back to the Elven concept, why would the elves want to chop down trees? So I think we could have kind of a two-sided battle going on. Not too similar to like the barbarians and mages where you choose a faction. You wouldn't choose a faction. You'd just be with the light elves and they would be fighting against the dark elf. And there would be an event every now and then that's very similar to the goblin raid event on the Dwarven Mines, where you go around and you're fighting the dark elves instead of the goblins. And the whole reason you're fighting the dark elves is because you're in the elven forest and it's mostly light elves, but the dark elves jump in every now and then and they fight, but they are also spreading corruption among the trees. So that's why you have to chop down trees, is because a lot of the trees are going to be corrupted, and because they're corrupted you'll get not as much XP for breaking them, but they will drop like corrupted wood or something like that. That will be a material for different crafting recipes, which I've got concepts for that we'll talk about in a little bit. But that would be why the elves want you to break the trees. But some of the trees would not get corrupted, so there'd be like half the island is corrupted trees, the other half is non-corrupted trees. But if you break the non-corrupted trees, then the elves that are in the area will turn to you and attack you, very similar to Kaluki tribe members in the Crystal Hollows. They'd be very strong, maybe not to the point where they would one-shot you, but to the point where they're very annoying to defeat, and they probably deal a really good amount of damage, so you can't just stand here and mine while they're hitting you. They're still going to be beating you up. So in like 4 hits maybe they kill you, but they would have like, I don't know, maybe 10 million health each. I want them to be difficult to fight. You're not supposed to fight them. You don't want to fight them, because these non-corrupted trees are going to give ridiculous amounts of XP. It's going to be by far the best foraging XP method, but you are going to get to foraging level 30 before you can really mine them, because at foraging level 30 you will be able to wear the dark elven suit, and the dark elven suit will make you invisible to light elves. They won't be able to see you, so you can cut down their trees without them attacking you. So that way you'll still be able to grind out your XP in the best way possible, but it'll take a while to get to that point. And that brings us to another topic I wanted to talk about, which is the reason you're going to want to do foraging. Now, the main reason we have right now is, of course, you want that extra strength. And with this update, we would add in foraging 60, which would also give us some extra strength. But when we got the Dwarven Mines added, the main reason that people grinded it out was because it made a lot of money right off the bat. And for a while there, people grinded it out, and then people started to ignore it, because in the grand scheme of the game, it didn't really help you out that much. After you hit mining 60, there was really no point in mining, and that's when the Crystal Hollows came out. And the reason that people still grind out the Crystal Hollows to this day is, number one, it is still a really good money making method. It sells for very high values to the NPC. But the other reason is because everyone has gemstone slots now. Your armor and your damage and your intelligence can all be increased because of mining. So we need a reason to forage other than for the stat increases of hitting foraging 60. We want people to still want to forage after they hit foraging 60. Not everybody, naturally, but still a lot of people to still forage, because it'll be a good money making method and there'll be a reason for it. Now, I don't want it to be like the best money making method in the game. Mining is way too broken. We never need anything more broken than mining is right now. The economy is already going head over heels over this, but I do want some weapon upgrades to come out of this. So the main thing that I want to come out of this is something called a handle wrap. Now, a handle wrap would be used on any weapon in the game. You can put it on a bow, you can put it on a Reaper scythe, you can put it on a florid zombie sword, an AOTE, whatever you like, and it would increase your strength by 50 while holding that weapon. So it'd be just like a reforge or something, increase your strength by 50, and it'd be applied to it like a wooden singularity or a hot potato book. So once once you put it on, you can't get it off. But that 50 strength buff will be a pretty big deal in the grand scheme of things. If you ever want to max out a weapon, you'll have to do this for every weapon that you want to max. And it would be pretty expensive as far as the crafting recipe goes. There would be a time gate system similar to the Forge, except it would be the Elven Sorceress, and you'd give your materials to the Elven Sorceress. It'd be like a very large chunk of materials, like 3 super enchanted pieces of wood or something like that, and she would grind them down into a handle wrapping, and it'd take her like 24 hours or something to imbue the magic and everything. But that is only the one thing that would make people want to forage, and only one thing that the Elven Sorceress would do. The other thing that the Elven Sorceress would do is give you a much greater access to tier 6 enchant. Now, we've had so many tier 6 enchants in the game for such a long time, and a lot of them are really rare, and some of them are really common, but I would still want them to be expensive to craft, maybe not as expensive. Like right now, sharpness 6, the lowest sharpness 6 book actually goes for 750k, which is not as low as I thought it was. But like, imagine a whole new line of enchants that you can level up, so it wouldn't just be sharpness 6, it would be upgrading any enchanted book with a single enchant. You can't like go in and put one of these ridiculous books with like feather falling, first strike, infinite quiver, luck, power, blah blah blah. You can't put all of those in there, but it'd be a single enchanted book, and you give her a bunch of enchanted paper that you can get, and you give the sorcerer the enchanted book as well as a new material called elven paper, which is made from the elven trees, but it's like very expensive. It'd be like you'd need 3 of it to upgrade a book, and it would be the same as a compact pumpkin or compact netherwort or the enchanted red sand cube, where it takes 2.5 stacks of the enchanted version to be able to craft, and you need 3 of them plus the enchanted book to upgrade the enchant tier. So this would be pretty broken for some higher level enchants. It wouldn't work on ultimate enchants, of course. Nobody wants one for all 2, but it could be really powerful for high level rare enchants like sharpness 7. You could upgrade it to sharpness 8, but depending on the level, it would take more and more days to be able to craft. So it'd be like for those level 8 enchants, it'd be ridiculous, like putting a epic phoenix pet into Cat the pet sitter. Like, I don't know how many days it takes exactly, but it's like, I want to say like 30 days or something. So that's how ridiculous it would have to be as far as time gating goes. And we wouldn't have cat flowers to be able to speed things up. It'd be like the Forage, where you're kind of stuck with it. But I was just spitballing with reasons that we could have people to forage other than for the basic foraging 60, and after you hit that, you're never foraging again, which I'm sure some people will still be like that. But I really want there to be a reason for us to forage, because foraging has been on the back burner since pretty much the start of the game. Since Tree Capitator came out, nobody has been doing foraging. Everyone wants to wait for this update to come out to give them a reason to grind it, and also to make the grind easier, because there will be items to make the grind easier. I do want some new axes that can be crafted, but you will unlock them at different levels of a new skill tree system, which would be called the Heart of the Tree. Now, this system will have something similar to Mithril Powder, but I want to call it Pixie Dust. So there will be pixies around the island that you can fight, and they drop pixie dust. And then there would be where you could get some from the trees that you're mining. You get a little bit. It will not be much, but it'll be enough to start you off. But getting your Heart of the Tree level up would be a lot harder. Now, I don't want a big time gate on this Heart of the Tree system. It'll be similar to the Heart of the Mountain system, where you can do something at all times to increase it. It's not going to be like you need heavy pearls and you can only get them once a day to level up your Heart of the Tree. It'll be more like there is an event that you can do, similar to going into the Matriarch, but more like going into Kudra, where you need a key to get in, but there's not a limit as to how many you can do a day. It's just limited to how many keys that you have. So these keys would not actually be keys. They would be called lotus saplings, and around the trees, hanging from them like fruit, and hanging on the tops of them would be lotus flowers. Now, if they wanted to, they could have one of these flowers here be a lotus flower, but personally, I would rather it be a block similar to this. Like the ancient fruit looks cool, or the pink berry, something similar to that, where you'd be able to just go around on the trees and grab them, and they have a like 5% chance to drop a lotus sapling, but every time you mine them, you get a little bit of pixie dust. Maybe the rest of the time you get like a lotus seed or something that could be used for an axe upgrade, but it's gonna be very difficult to get your hands on because they're gonna be soul bound, so you're gonna have to grind them out yourself. But once you get one, you will be allowed to enter the defend the tree mini game. And to enter this mini game, there will be like a little door probably inside of one of the larger trees on the island, and you just go inside and there'll be maybe a little portal somewhere like right here. You can jump in, but it will only let you in if you have a lotus sapling in your inventory. And then to start the mini game, it will teleport you to a new island once it's checked that you have a lotus sapling, and you'll be on that island, but nothing will happen until you go to the middle of the island and you place down your lotus sapling. And once you place the lotus sapling, a bunch of mobs will start to appear, and you'll have to sit around your sapling and defend it from all of the mobs. There will be different tiers of this mini game similar to Kudra, and there will be a talisman for defeating each one of them at 100% difficulty. So if your tree gets hit once, you don't get the talisman, but if you defend your tree at the first level, you get a common talisman. If you defend it at 100% at the second level, you get your talisman upgraded to uncommon, and so on and so forth. And what'll be attacking you is pixies and dark elves, and I'm not really sure how the pixies would look. I would like them to be like vexes, which I think is possible considering that we have rabbits that are allowed on the island. Even though we're in 1.8.9, which didn't have rabbits, they've put rabbits into the game on the Mushroom Desert, so I don't really know if vexes would be possible. I doubt they would look the same, but there's so many different things that they could do. I mean, we have miniature withers that are in the game. They could really just make another creature miniature, like maybe a chicken or a pigman chicken jockey or something like that, and just make it as small as the wither from the wither sets, and then you're just fighting those guys as well as dark elves, which would be like goblins and ice walkers, where it's a player character with a special armor set on, but you'll just be sitting around defending your little sapling from harm. And you will be able to do this with multiple people, but you all have to have a sapling. So it won't be like Kudra where you can enter even if you don't have a sapling and you just don't get the rewards at the end. You will have to have the sapling to be able to do the fight, and then you will get rewards at the end. Probably a special new material that will be used to craft higher level axes and maybe higher level armor sets, which will give you more foraging fortune. But the main thing that it's going to give you is a huge chunk of pixie dust, and you'll be able to use that pixie dust to upgrade your heart of the tree, which will give more foraging fortune, allow you to have a higher foraging XP boost, and even give you a couple of axe abilities that you can choose from. For instance, in the heart of the mountain, we have the mining speed boost ability and the Picobulus ability. In the heart of the tree, it would be similar, where you have two to choose from, but they would both be very different. They would both have a cooldown of 90 to 120 seconds, depending on the level of upgrade that you have on it, because you will be able to upgrade these abilities. The one will give you the ability to mine a non-corrupted tree, no matter what level you are, and no matter whether you have the dark elf tunic or not, or dark elf suit, sorry. But you'll only be able to mine that one tree, and then the elves will get angry at you after if you decide to mine another one. So every 2 minutes you'd be able to mine one of the higher level trees, get a little bit more XP, and then go back to mining the lower level ones. Or once you are high enough level to use the dark elf suit and not be noticed by the light elves, you can choose this other ability, which will reduce the cooldown of your Tricapitator or whatever other axes that we have, so that they will not have a cooldown on them at all. Like right now, the Toil Tricapitator, if we take it over here, it will activate right there, but then here it won't activate for a second, and then it activates, there it activates, takes it a second, and then it activates. So there will be no cooldown on this. You'll just be able to go brrr and it'll instantly disappear. That's the idea anyways. Now the trees that you're going to be grinding out are going to be bigger, like we said earlier, so it will not completely chop down an entire tree with one swing. So that's why that ability ability will be really good, because you'll be able to just teleport to the top of a tree, find the middle of the tree, and then just dig straight down on the one block, and all the blocks around you will start to disappear as you're falling down, breaking the build. But that will have a very short lifespan, like 10 seconds before your cooldown is enabled, and then you have to wait another 2 minutes to 90 seconds to be able to activate that ability again. But that also brings us to our axe upgrade concept. So honestly, there are a ton of different concepts that could be used. Not all of them are practical, but I think the main thing that people are going to want from this is going to be Foraging Fortune, as well as Foraging XP buffs. So I don't think we need a Divin's Drill level axe to be able to use, because we don't really have nucleus runs. I guess we could have a special drop that has a chance to drop in the Defend the Tree game, but I really don't think that's necessary. The Tree Capitator should really be the top ability. Like, there could be more abilities, like say maybe you chop a tree and every time you break a block, it has a chance to place a TNT that will break all the wood around it in a 2-block radius. So I could just be mining this tree right here and suddenly a TNT places, and then I can go to another tree as that one's blowing up. But really the main things that I think we'll want is going to be similar to the Tree Capitator, where it just insta breaks a lot of builds around it, but the range would be increased depending on what upgrade you're on. So all of these axes would be upgrades of the Tree Capitator, and they would only do 2 things: increase the reach on that ability, like how many blocks it will break for every 1 block that you break, and then also increase your Foraging Fortune. So the highest level one would increase your Foraging Fortune by like maybe 300 and increase your block range by like 10, maybe 20. I think 20 would be kind of busted though, but it would be very, very expensive, so it might be worth it. But there would be like 2 other upgrades besides the final upgrade in between that last upgrade and the Tree Capitator. So the first one would give you like a extra 3-block reach, while the second would give you an extra 7-block reach. The first would give you an extra 100 Foraging Fortune, and the second would give you an extra 200 Foraging Fortune. And they could do more upgrades, like they could even add like an entirely new gem like they did with the Crimson Isle, where we got Opal. Maybe we get a new gem that gives Foraging Fortune, or Magic Find or something. That could be cool, like a special gem that can only be mined with an axe, but it gives Magic Find. I don't know, I'm spitballing here. This was not in the script, mostly because there is no script. I think that would be nice, where we have some upgrades, but nothing too ridiculous. Enough to where it's noticeable, but not to the point where it's like required. Now, there is another idea that I had to where we have more foraging armor sets, which would be fine. We really don't have any foraging armor sets in the game as of right now, but this would mean that you would not want the dark elf suit to be an armor. You would want it to be more of a talisman, so maybe a dark elf jewel or something, or it could even be a piece of equipment, really, because we are going to want some new equipment pieces. Maybe we get a bunch of different equipment pieces that increase your foraging fortune, but we want one talisman that will give you immunity to light elves from noticing you. It'd have to be pretty expensive, and you could only have the ability start working after you hit foraging level 30 or whatever the limit would be. Personally, I'm foraging 26 as of right now, and if I was actually foraging during this video, I would probably be a bit higher, but I would rather jump around here than forage, so that kind of speaks for itself how badly we need this update. Now, another thing that we could add with this update would be an alchemy 60, which I think could be covered very well in this update, like adding an entire new mystic area, the Elven Forest. We could add so many new materials used in potion crafting. We could add a new material from the lotus flowers that I spoke about. We could add pixie wings or something, and maybe they do something simple like increase your foraging fortune, or they're just buffs to god potions like the Slayer mixings are, or maybe you use them to craft upgrades to the potion affinity talisman. That could be nice, be able to get god potions that last like up to 36 hours instead of just 24. So that would be a reason enough to grind out anything on the foraging island. People want their god potions to last a bit longer. It would have to be a pretty high cost to upgrade that talisman. But speaking of talismans, we could also add a whole new parkour system. Like on the end, we have the end races. In the park, we have those races, and then we've got more races in the dungeon hub. Maybe we add another set of races to the Elven Forest. But if we did that, I would want it to be more similar to the jungle temple parkour, where it's more trap and your speed and abilities are neglected. So it's more of a skill thing like the dojo is, rather than whether or not you have an AOTE and a grappling hook, because you don't want people to just run in, instantly get a uncommon or rare talisman and then never do the parkour again. Like, having the dojo has given me something to grind my mechanics up for a long time. Like, the dojo came out like 3 months ago and I still don't have a black belt. I'm not saying it should be that difficult, but I'm saying you shouldn't be able to finish it in like the first 30 seconds unless you're a parkour master. But I know I skimmed over quite a bit of this concept, so if you guys have any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments. But I think a lot of these ideas could work out really well. I know a lot of it is copies off of other SkyBlock things that are already in the game, but I did want to try out a few new things, but keep it kind of familiar. I could honestly do 3 different videos about this topic. Who knows what the update is actually going to be like when it comes out, but I feel like I came up with a few cool ideas here. Let me know which ones you like the best. Thank you again for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and you can also join our Discord and check out my music, which is linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless.